Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Now, here's your host, Aslan Hajavandi.
Yeah, that's right, man. Welcome into the program, Tuesday edition of Wake Up War Chant. He's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. Thanks so much for being here. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations over in the College Town District, Madison Social, Central Township. Always good times. Always good time when Corey Clark joins us here live in the flesh in the studio. You heard Petty, folks. You know what that means. He's here. Corey, how are you?
Good, buddy. Good. That would have been a good song for Valentine's Day.
Yeah?
That's like kind of a love song,
Is
I think. Well, maybe not a love song, but more like you got lucky because I'm in your life song.
That's
kind of what Valentine's Day is all about.
So much swag, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Swag before swag even
That's
existed.
what TP was all about.
Yeah, dude. That's a little bit uneasy, though, because he's a Gainesville guy, right? Kind of
He
weird.
is. You can't hold that against him, though,
Okay.
right? You can't hold that against him.
I don't think
he's a huge Gator fan or wasn't a huge Gator fan.
Right.
So
we'll pretend that he roots for the good guys.
By the way, the coolest thing there were 2 awesome college football, I guess, traditions that started last year. Number one, the best by far is in Iowa.
Yep.
I mean, that's if you don't know what we're talking about, well, go Google it. But there's the Children's Hospital overlooks the stadium, and I guess it's at the end of the first quarter.
I think
Maybe
so.
All the stands, all the fans, 60,000 of them turn around and wave at the
Getting
kids
chills just
in
like
the
you're
windows.
talking
It's
about
crazy.
I can see it.
But number 2 on that list is Florida fans doing won't back down between the third and fourth quarter. They only did it because the 2 days after Petty died, but then they kept it going throughout the rest of the year, and they lost every game at home when they did it. So they did back down quite a lot. So they might want to change that song, but still, it's a cool tradition to have Tom Petty playing between the third and fourth quarters.
Yeah,
and everybody sings along. It's it actually was really neat to hear that in person.
Really?
It was, man. Yeah, I liked it. I never got to see Tom Petty in person, but it's cool to hear 80,000 people singing Won't Back Down.
I guess it's better than them putting their arms around each other and swaying back and
Yeah,
forth.
doing all that
singing
2 bits,
some
4 bits,
crazy
whatever that
nonsense.
craziness is.
All right, craziness ensuing in Indianapolis. The NFL Combine is over. Defensive backs were on the showcase yesterday.
Right.
Some good, some bad. I guess
one really good, one not so good.
Yeah, man. Let's just You never want to go to break on a bad note, so we'll get there eventually. I guess let's just get to it now. Then I guess Tarvarus McFadden just not what he was hoping for. I guess is probably the most diplomatic way to say it. Very poor 40. I mean,
maybe he was just trying to break 4.8, and if he went in there with like those expectations, I think he's pretty happy with himself. He did it twice. He broke 4.8 in the 40. Again, I was on here yesterday saying that 40-yard dashes aren't the end-all, be-all, and nor should they be. And the perfect example to me is like LaMarcus Joyner, I think at the Combine, I don't know if you can look that up, ran like a 4.51. And I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody as fast on a football field, like in a quick burst, as LaMarcus Joyner. That guy was nuts. But in the Combine, I thought he was in the 4.5s, which was
4.55.
That's really surprising to me from LaMarcus Joyner. Because, I remember there was a play against Idaho that championship season where he rushes the quarterback on a blitz, misses him, falls down, and ends up making the tackle 80 yards downfield on a screen pass. He was a remarkable player to watch in football pads with a helmet on. He was incredibly fast. But for whatever reason at the Combine, he didn't test all that well. And obviously he's had a nice pro career already. He's about to get really paid. So 4.55 didn't scare anybody off. They knew how fast he was because they saw the film. Tarvarus McFadden running a 4.7. Man, that doesn't when your film looks like McFadden's
4.67.
And I'm rounding up. His
help our guy out here.
His second run was like a 4.75 or something.
Yeah.
They just count the fastest. When you're putting that stuff on you're putting that time down, you better have better stuff on film than he had this last year. So he really is. I just don't see how a GM is going to pull the trigger early on in the draft for somebody you can't trust to run with NFL receivers.
It's easy to sit here, as I did on Monday, and lament what were the coaches thinking with a guy like Josh
He
Sweat.
can run with Auden Tate. He's got that going for him.
So it made him feel good about going into games. Like, I can shut
That's
down
our
our
number one guy. He
We're
can't
good.
run by me.
It's easy to sit here like I did yesterday and talk about, what are coaches thinking about, letting Josh Sweat or not making Josh Sweat be just a pure edge rusher and instead making him just, set the edge, hold the edge. And I guess conversely, what's so easy too is sitting here and I don't know, I think this is more fair. Like, what are these agents thinking? You've seen your guy run. I mean, I don't think Tarvarus McFadden was putting up 4.4s and just forgot how to run with grace in Indianapolis. I don't know what there was to gain by making him run that because, his profile, it even says here, before this all went down, his grade was around 2 to 3 grade according to NFL.com. The first thing on his weakness for his analysis is lacks long speed to carry vertical targets downfield.
That was before
he ran
combine.
yesterday. Yeah, I mean, that was like going in, that was the rap on him. That was his weakness. Lacks long speed to carry vertical targets downfield.
Do you think you lack long speed to carry vertical targets downfield?
Did you see the video I posted?
No.
On War Channel? Well, it got moved to the locker room, but I posted on the Tribal Council. When I was in Jackson, we did, around this time of year, a few years ago, I did like an NFL combine sort of thing with me and my weekend sports anchor and our number 3 guy. So we went to various high schools and we had the coaches. We did a vertical, we did a bench press, and we did the 40.
What'd you get? How many times did you get 225 up?
We did 185. I got 185 up 10 times.
Man, why'd you do 185? That's not the combine. Did you do a 35-yard dash?
No. I mean, because it would have been, none of us would have got 225 up.
If you can get 185 up 10 times, you can get 225 up probably 4 or 5 times at least.
I can say this now. I love my guy, Ray Coleman. He was my weekend anchor. He only got 185 up 3 times. I didn't want to bury him like that.
Well,
didn't want him having just
I don't think
thumped.
that's that embarrassing. I don't think I could lift 225 right now. I think
But
most people listening to this show probably can't lift 225. I don't think that's too embarrassing.
Well, the number 3 guy was he actually played football at Belhaven University in Jackson. So he got 185 up like 22 times.
Right.
And he ran, and let me put this out there. I was the white guy, relatively speaking. They both are African-American guys. Josh, who was the guy who actually played at Belhaven, he ran a 5 flat. Ray, who's younger than me, but I guess he had his knee scope when he was coming out of high school. He ran like a 5.4. I ran a 5.2, and I looked terrible running the 5.2. I mean, somebody even put on the message there like, Aslan, you look like a scared woman in a horror movie running. And I had the worst start, and you could hear we had the mic coached up, and the mic's like, "Oh man, that was a bad start." Like I tried to
stop and start over. Yeah,
I tried to start like I was, like I knew what I was doing with my hand in the dirt and everything, and I came out of it really bad looking. But that was obviously for fun, so I want everyone to laugh at it. But I just don't know how Tarvarus McFadden can have representation that's going to get 7 to 10% of his income, and thought that was a good idea because he looked lost. Running in a straight line.
The thing that you wonder is it didn't look like he trained a lot. That's not how you run a 40. If anybody's seen the footage of it, and don't go and do it, you don't have that kind of time. That's a funny line, right?
Yeah, that was good.
I'm just kidding, Tarvarus. You're a very good athlete. You led the nation in interceptions a couple years ago. Certainly a better athlete than I could ever dream of being. But it didn't look like he trained. It just doesn't look like that's how you would train someone to run. And like you said, we were talking about it before the show. Like if you know you're a client is going to run like that or close to it, you're thinking maybe 4.65, 4.62 at the best. Just tweak a hammy. Yeah. Just I pinched that, guys. Well, I'm gonna have to do it at my pro day. Something like that. You don't have to run. And especially when you're going to throw out a 4.7 like that, maybe
4.67
because
nice.
It doesn't look great. If you're Tarvarus McFadden, it's one thing for Clowney to say I'm not going to run a 40, although he did, but some of those guys don't run. But if you're Tarvarus McFadden, you're not such a high pick that you can't run. You have to run. The NFL teams will be very upset with you if you don't run, unless you tweak your ankle a little bit.
Yeah,
that's all.
I mean, who knows? I mean, he could. I'm trying to think of somebody here in recent
did Derwin
time.
have to run? They all knew what Derwin was, but his agent was like, "Man, get out there and run and show them."
Yeah,
because you're gonna be the talk of the combine, which he was on Monday for what he did. So yeah, his agent. I guess it's probably if you're going to be an agent of one of those two guys, it's pretty nice to have Derwin James in your clientele.
I just my thing with McFadden as we wind up and go to break here is that I saw him interviewed by you guys a few times throughout the years, and he was a guy that he just wore it, man. When he had, sorry to say, man, everybody, he wore it when he had bad games and he was interviewed, or even when he had a good game and they'd put him in front of the cameras, he was always pretty soft spoken and somewhat humble, but you could tell that he had been affected by those rough patches in 2016, despite leading the country in interceptions. I mean, he had those bad patches where he was, letting guys from USF, blow by him. I feel really bad because, I mean, he knows that he didn't do well. And I can't imagine that anxiety and there's no turning back. It's not like you can be like, all right, well, screw it. I'm going to go back to school and try to get better. He's got a pro day to make it up, but I don't know. I feel a sort of sense of sympathy for a guy that just sucks, man. It's just not the best foot forward, and I don't know how much of this is going to drop his stock. I mean, there was one time we were joking about it at the meeting yesterday, right? There was somebody tweeted something long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Tarvarus McFadden was a top 20 prospect,
right?
And then,
yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great junior year, obviously, and then the combine today, at least the time he ran, I don't know how he did in position drills.
He had a 38.5-inch vertical jump, 121-inch broad jump. Those are good.
Nice
those are good
numbers.
Those are good numbers.
So, he's not. Again, he's a better athlete than probably anybody listening to this has ever even met. He's a really good athlete. He just ran slow, and that's when you're a cornerback, that's not a great trait. But he is long. He can jump. When he's near the ball, he's got pretty good ball skills. He can come down with it. It's just he'll still have a chance to prove himself. He might have cost himself some money, but, I think he'll still get drafted, and I think he still has a shot to make a team and be a contributor. He just didn't do himself any favors with that 40-yard dash.
All right, it's commercial time after talking about tea time. Let's talk about the shining spot for the Seminoles on Monday in Indy, Mr. Derwin James. We'll talk about that right after this here on Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome back on into things here on Wake Up War Chant, Tuesday edition of the program. Tom Petty playing. That means Corey Clark is still here live in the flesh in Tallahassee at ESPN 97.9. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality, and there are 3 great locations over in the Collegetown District: Central, Madison Social, and Township. I think that's the first time I said all of them in alphabetical order, which I always strive to do, but I'm never able to do it because I just can't think and talk and do all this stuff at the same time. So be easy there, folks. Be easy on me. All right, Corey, so we talked about the bad from the combine, the good, obviously, Derwin James. Man, that guy, every bit of him that we were hoping to see on Saturdays, which I don't know if we ever really did, but that's another conversation. He showed out in every single metric you can possibly think of. 4.47 in the 40, 21 reps on the bench press, 40-inch vertical jump, 132-inch broad jump.
Weren't they all close to the best for safeties? Yeah. I mean, I know there are DBs, there are corners that run a bit faster than that, not much, but for safeties, the vertical and the 40, I would think, would have to be close to the top.
Bench press was third. His 21 reps were third best. His vertical jump was 5th best.
Wow, just from safeties? Wow.
Yeah. But it's 1.5 inches better than him, was the #1 guy, so it wasn't terrible or anything like that. And then his broad jump was 3rd best. I mean, that's 11 feet. That's 11. I mean, think about that, folks. Just standing still at a dead stop, jump forward, and he jumps forward 11 feat. So, yeah, man, he cinched up that whole first-round pick thing.
Big day for Texas A&M recruiting.
Yes, add it to the billboard.
Yep.
Add it to the billboard.
Throw
folks.
him into Ramsey because he's going to be a millionaire soon enough. You got more money to add to that total.
None of this surprises you, I imagine.
No, in fact, I can't. I think I told this story talking to Jimbo. I can't remember if I told it on here or not, but remind me if I did. I was talking to him after
about how
before,
good Jalen was, and maybe Derwin can be.
No, how Jalen was a freak show at the combine, and saying, man, Derwin's probably. He's like, yeah, Derwin's going to do well up there too in a couple of years. And I said, yeah, but not like Jalen. And he goes, and he's like, oh no, he's every bit the athlete. Now, he's something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing because it was a conversation from 2 years ago. But he is really close. Jalen Ramsey, you could argue Jalen Ramsey might be the best athlete in the NFL. There aren't many that could have qualified. There were national qualifiers in the long jump. I mean, the guy, and he didn't even practice. He never had a chance to practice, and he was, I think he finished third or fourth. He was a national medalist in the long jump.
Yeah.
And obviously ran a 4.41 and is who he is. So Derwin James being anywhere close in that stratosphere at his size is just ridiculous. I mean, the guy is just an athletic freak. And, he didn't have a great junior season until – he didn't have a great one. But you could tell the last 4 or 5 games, okay, that's the guy. That's the guy that he started making like those kind of flash wow plays, not pick sixes, not strip sacks. He maybe wasn't even put in the best position to succeed in making those types of plays. But when he had a guy one-on-one or he had a guy in his sights, he really hit them very hard and made a lot of plays. And you saw why everybody was so excited about him before the season started. I think it took him a while because of the rust. It had been, whatever it had been.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as – it's just always going to be what could have been. I mean, I don't think –
But let me ask you this. What did Ramsey do his last 2 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That made you think –
But Ramsey had like that game against Miami
he had
down
the
there
one
in
game
14
his sophomore year.
that just blows
crazy.
away anything that Derwin ever did.
Well, for sure. It was crazy. But in his junior year, I think I don't even know if he had an interception.
Well, no, then he killed some man's soul from Louisville in Doak in
on the
15,
block.
didn't he?
Yeah. But he didn't
make
make game-changing type plays. He was just awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, corner and safety is a different position, but I also think Derwin wasn't always put in the best position to succeed. I think if you're an NFL GM and you're picking, I don't know, in the first 15 or 16 picks, you're like, man, I have to have that guy on my team. He's a difference maker. He can play 2 or 3 different positions, and he's a freakazoid, man. He's just they don't build him like that. They don't build guys that big, that strong, that fast.
They're talking about, I think I heard Daniel Jeremiah talking about there's teams that have him on their board as a linebacker, which really intrigues me.
In this day and age, that's not crazy to think about. I mean, a linebacker that covers a slot or covers a running back, I mean, that we're getting away from the power eye, just hand it to the tailback 25 times, obviously. So in this new age of football, get him close to the line of scrimmage. He can do it.
Yeah, he's shown it. I mean, some of his greatest moments were when he was playing like a linebacker, when he strip sacked Lamar Jackson as a freshman, when he took that man's soul from Florida, whiffed on Trayon Harris on the sack, but I mean, he just put a guy in roller skates and knocked him on his tush. Yeah, Derwin's going to be great, and it's going to be fun to root for him, and I know how much he loves the university, so I'm not criticizing him. It's just one of those things where
it's a little bit like Cromartie.
Yeah.
Because Cromartie, his junior year, was going to play offense. He might be, I mean, other than Dion, there might not be a crazier athletic specimen than Antonio Cromartie that played at Florida State. To be 6'3" and run like that. But he never got a real chance to shine. I don't think he ever started here. He was going to start his junior year, but then got hurt and then went pro. You kind of feel like that. There was a little just because of the injury, a little left with Derwin that you'd like to have seen, but not really through any fault of his own. He had an injury where he lost the whole season.
Now, looking forward, this is what kind of concerns me. There's so much great social media presence for Florida State from the combine, from what Derwin did. I mean, Earl Thomas retweeted Derwin's 40.
The
Earl
Seahawks
Thomas
guy, the safety.
Played for Texas, was awesome, and the Seahawks took him, and he's been fantastic for the Seahawks. Said like, this guy's, he's the next thing. He's got everything you want. It's like, that's awesome to see. Jalen retweeted, was like, little bro showing out, can't wait for you. And I know it was only 1 year of overlap, but you had LaMarcus set the kind of standard. LaMarcus Joyner, and then Jalen kind of absorbed maybe a little bit of that, hopefully. And then, Derwin had that 1 year overlap where he absorbed, picked up some of the things that Jalen has done. I don't know if Derwin left anything behind, if there's anybody on this roster that wants to keep that sort of dog, that rare breed of athletic prowess that's been on the back end of this defense for, 5 years? If you go back to, 6-7 years, if you go back to once Joyner really started making an impact, like, who's the next guy? Is it Jaden Woodby going to be a guy hopefully, but he never never got to experience.
He never played with Derwin. Levanta Taylor is a good corner. He's not, I guess he's not quite the athletic freak that maybe those guys are. Well, he isn't, because there aren't Derwins and Jalen's, but he's plenty fast. That can really jump and was good last year. You got him. maybe Stanford Samuels. I mean, if he takes another step, I mean, there's guys there. The kid with the crazy name, Hasim.
Oh,
that guy's a big,
Nasrilden.
rangy dude
Yeah.
that is really mean. He has a chance, maybe.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think. I don't think we can expect. I just think it's a coincidence that Ramsey and Derwin kind of. It seems like they did play with each other, but it seems like they almost kind of. They passed the baton. Jalen passed the baton to Derwin. Just in that freak athleticism. I don't know that there's anybody quite like those two guys on this roster, but you might go another 10 years without having two guys like that on your roster.
But that's the thing. You went like 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I know.
There were three,
I know.
not 3 years in a row, but 3 dudes in a row that were just that crazy. Here is the a source tells us, this is according to NFL.com, and this is what they talk about when they talk about Derwin James. He's going to be the dude in any locker room he ends up in. That's his makeup. Yeah, that's the kind of guy that you have. And that's the kind of guy that stabilizing force that you hoped was going to be there like in 16 to not let that thing fall apart. But it was there in 17, and it kind of went by the wayside. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I mean, real quick before we go to break, just to compare some of the numbers on Derwin and Jalen. Jalen ran a 4.41. Derwin went 4.47. Derwin had him on more reps, 21 reps on the bench. Jalen had 14. Jalen had a better vertical jump, though, 41.5 inches, and also a better broad jump by 3 inches. But
imagine
those guys,
like jumping 40 inches and somebody having 1.5 inches more than you. I mean, that's nuts.
Crazy.
That's man. That's over 3. That's 3 feet and 4 inches, and you still didn't outjump Jalen Ramsey. But that guy again, man, that guy was a medalist in the long jump in NCAA, and probably could have been a national champion if he'd have devoted himself full time to it.
Rare breed. Hopefully there's more to come there from the defensive side of the ball for the Florida State Seminoles. Let's go to break. When we come back, maybe we'll talk more football. We still got some baseball and basketball to get to as well. Everything you need to know about the Noles coming up here on Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Come on back to Wake Up War Chant. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for being here on your Tuesday. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations over in College Town, Central, Madison Central. That's the high school I used to cover. Madison Social and Township. Maybe you need to start saying some of these things, Corey, so they can hear it come from your voice.
Madison Central.
Madison Central.
That's what you
yeah, right? Piece of cake. That would have been awesome. All right, and also a reminder, folks, if you could be so kind as to go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. We only need 5-star reviews, and we're going to give a quick example of how you leave a review and how you don't leave a review. This comes from Zach FSU 5 from March the 2nd. Jimbo loving, dog hating Aslan. Love the podcast, man. You have great takes, man. Thank you for the insight, man. Corey's great, and Aslan is getting better, man.
That's awesome.
Okay, so
that's really funny.
It's funny, okay? Like, you're making fun of me, and I get it. I'm trying to get better. I appreciate it. Left 5 stars.
Good.
Then you have guys that do this. This new Aslan guy is not nearly as cheesy as the previous host. He's got potential, but he needs to do a couple things before I start listening regularly. Constructive criticism. 1, stop yelling like you're Stephen A. Smith or on Pardon the Interruption. No need for that crap. It makes you sound forced and disingenuous with whatever point you're making. It's a morning show. Stop yelling at Corey. Number 2, be humble.
I agree with that. Don't yell at me.
I really don't. Number 2, be humble. You come off as arrogant and cocky. Don't tell Corey, hey, needs to earn his stripes or talk down to him or Ira. I know you're trying to be humorous, but it doesn't play well on the audio. You're the new kid on the block. Show the proper amount of respect and reverence for Corey and Ira, and you will be more well received.
I didn't know my buddies were on iTunes like this. This is awesome.
Yeah. I fast forward a lot to get to Ira, Corey, or Gene. 1-star review, South Florida Noel.
Well, see, I don't like that part because I feel like he sort of liked what he was. He gave you some constructive criticism, but I feel like he thinks there's some potential there. And if it's a potential, you don't throw in a 1-star.
Here's the thing, man. I'm asking for you guys to leave good reviews. I'm pretty much the guy panhandling at the exit of Monroe and I-10. If you got money to give me a 5-star review, please go ahead and do so.
Don't roll down your window and flick me off.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. It's okay. You don't have to like me. But come on, you're messing with our review
I'll
ratings
say this,
here,
too. Like, everybody, if you feel like Aslan needs to get better, if you feel like he needs to improve, and if you want to leave that comment on iTunes, just know that I tell him every day how bad he is. So you don't have to do that. He gets it every day from me. So he just needs more positive reinforcement. And I do too. As a team, we need more positive reinforcement because we get plenty of negative reinforcement. We need positive reinforcement, guys. So 5 stars, maybe sprinkle in a 4-star, but more than anything, we need 5 stars.
Yeah, come on. How about the team? Corey, is there anything football that we can talk about that's not inane at this point?
No, we covered the combine stuff. The pro day is March 20th, so that's about 16 days away, 15, whatever, my math, a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
And spring practice is the day after that. So, I mean, I think we'll get into it more as we get closer.
I needed to do this, and I didn't have it set up here. Maybe I can get it here. So, buckle up, everybody. It's coming back. You thought it was all over. Let's see if this will work. I'm gonna try to be clever and play this whole sound effect thing. I don't know if it's gonna work.
Oh man.
Yeah, batten the hatches down. It's coming back. It's coming back. Part 2 of the Jimbo Chronicles will be dropping later this week. We're not going to talk about it too much here on the program, but just letting you know, trigger warning. If you go on warchant.com, there's going to be some of the loose ends being wrapped up about the Fisher tenure. Ira's going to, I guess, kind of maybe do the ugly of it or kind of how it ended. But, Corey, you're going to kind of do the good times because there was some good times. And, again, we're all happy for Willie. We're on the Taggart train. You know, he gave us a ticket. We're on it. We're cool. But then I
think there'll be more like more like specifics on what went wrong, when it went wrong, when the decline started, but also when the climb started in 2010 and how that happened, and everything from getting Telvin and LaMarcus to commit when they did, to having Damian Craig on staff so you could get Jameis Winston. That certainly helped. Having the relationship with Mike Martin Jr. that he had really helped get Jameis Winston to Florida State because they really knew. Jameis Winston really believed that he could play both sports at Florida State because of the history of this school and because of the relationship that Jimbo had with Mike Martin Jr. And that did play a part. I don't know how big a part it played, but Jameis Winston really loved baseball. And that was a big deal for him to be on the baseball team at Florida State. So that stuff will be part of it too. It's, again, just like the first 3 installments, I guess you'd call them, not all negative. Because it wasn't a negative tenure. It ended poorly, but there were some great moments, and so we give that the proper respect that it deserves. Just kind of putting a bow on, a really fascinating 8-year stretch in Florida State football history.
Heads up. Jimbo Chronicles dropping later this week. Just know it's going to be there. Just don't get too upset if it happens, and we'll move along.
Don't get upset. Be excited. It's coming, baby.
And then they're going to read it, and they're going to click on it, and they're going to read it. But that's not what we're in the business for, but it's just to give you kind of folks what you want. A lot of folks want a closure, and this will kind of be it. Isn't there like a booster thing coming up soon, though? We were talking about that over breakfast the other day with the gang. Or
it's
one of those
coming up. The tour starts April 23rd, I think. So not any six weeks, but Willie's booster tour, Coach Taggart's booster tour starts April 23rd. Looks like he's hitting like 15 or 20 spots, including Atlanta, which Jimbo hadn't been to in a while. They're getting a return of the Florida State head football coach. So
why would you go there?
They'll be excited. Yeah, there's no Florida State alums in Atlanta.
No talent in Atlanta.
Yeah, you don't want to be there. There's no Georgia kids you want to get. So that's they released that. It looks like there's about 20 stops on that tour and hitting the state, hitting Atlanta. Should be interesting to see how Coach Taggart does in his first foray into that with Florida State boosters.
Do you have any objections to when we talked about last week when we dive into the mailbag in terms of what, remember the guy classified sort of Willie's potential first-year record? If it's 7-5, if it's 8-4, okay. If it's 9-3, cool. If it's 10-2, awesome. If it's 11-1 or better, like heck yeah. And I kind of was like, well, it's got to be 10, right? I mean, because you more than anybody convinced me, the Florida State alum, you, the Georgia alum, the whole fact that, Jimbo Fisher might have remade this program, but he didn't make this program. This logo, this school, this university can recruit better and longer than Jimbo Fisher ever could. So you kind of coached me up from a fan perspective, and a lot of people, I'm sure. So at the same time, I mean, don't you have to win, though? Like, off the jump, doesn't it have to be 10 wins? I mean, they didn't bring this guy in just to caretake it and nurse it back to hell, because I don't think it's that sick I mean, the tumor's been removed.
I guess what my counter to that would be, you got to win. That's the name of the game.
But
that's why he's getting $5 million.
Let's go.
He's not going to win. If you're expecting like 12 wins or 11 wins, that's an incredible year. That would be, to me, that seems like that would be a hard thing to do because there is a culture change that has to happen because of how just poisonous it was at the end. And I don't know how quickly that can change. Does that happen in 8 months? I don't know. Does he need to bring his own kids in? What I would say is that the first year, man, so Jimbo went 10-4 his first year, was really close to going. That's the year Hopkins made the 55-yarder, right? Yeah. So he was really close to losing 5 or 6 games that year. But that wouldn't have put a damper on the direction the program was going. That first year, as long as you don't go 3-9, you do something, just awful. I think the wins aren't as important as getting the train back on track. But you're right, the train isn't nearly down the cliff like it was when Jimbo took over. I do think it's much closer than when Jimbo took over the reins. But Jimbo, like I said, Jimbo lost 4 games his first year, came really close to losing 6.
Made it to the ACC championship game.
Right, with some weird stuff that happened, but sure he did. But he was really close to losing 6 games, and then 2 years later he started a 29-game winning streak. So you can't. I guess you shouldn't put too many eggs in that first year basket. You can be like maybe a little worried if he only wins 7 or 8 games, like, oh man, that's not a great start. But knowing or understanding that the year 2 and year 3 is when you're supposed to see the real progress and do you hope a championship program again.
I don't know.
You expect them to win ACC this year? All right.
Well, this
I
is what we brought him, right? This is why Jimbo. This is why the divorce was so easy, because he started losing games, right? And people started getting sick of 10-3. Well,
he could have gone 10-3 in perpetuity and not been fired. But yes, people are getting tired of 3 lost seasons.
I won't be concerned.
He'll get the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I don't think you'll be
I won't
concerned.
be concerned if he has the record won't concern me. It'll be the way this team plays. If this going fast thing is going to actually be a sustainable, because I don't know how much of a culture shock it is for the team as it's going to be for the fans, because so many. I didn't hate the offense. I really didn't. I know a lot of people did. I'm in the minority. I get it. I'm sorry. Air horn.
Yeah.
But I had a certain confidence that when it mattered, this offense could work. And there were so many situations it could work in. I feel like when you go fast, it's such a momentum-based thing. Like I covered Ole Miss. I covered Auburn. When those offenses get rolling, they're scary. But when they get stopped, they look pathetic.
Yeah.
Auburn marched right down the field in the SEC championship game on Georgia the first drive.
And did jack squat.
And then didn't do anything the rest of the game. And then it's such a weird sort of the way it all works. So many things need to go into harmony. And obviously with the way things used to be, you also need everything to be really good. You need a really good quarterback, obviously, and things of that nature. So I just want to see how it's going to work and me not be the total objective outsider looking at Ole Miss or Auburn and ultimately not caring at the end of the day whether it worked or not, and being the guy who's invested emotionally into Florida State and seeing if that's going to not wear me down to the nub, just seeing a team that's just running fast and not doing anything. But at the end of the day, I don't think he'll go fast for no freaking reason. That's one of those things where the momentum starts like you have to win first down. Right. If you throw an incomplete pass on first down, they're not going to just run up to the line and go quick again. So I guess I don't think there's a number that will make me feel good, bad, or indifferent. Or there's a number that make me feel good, 10 wins. There's not a number that make me feel bad or indifferent. It's going to be the way they'll play and how successful that sort of tempo is.
Yeah, it's weird, too, because it's, we've been preached to for 8 years now about results versus the process and the results, and not being results-oriented. And I just think in this instance that Jimboism is probably true. To me, it's going to be almost how they look as much as what the numbers are in those 2 columns. If you beat the tar out of Wake 51-6 and beat the tar out of the teams you're supposed to beat the tar out of and lose close games, then maybe 9-4 or 8-5, but you look like that and you can see the potential, and maybe you lose to Clemson 31-30. But if you go 10-3 and get housed by Clemson 41-9, and you get housed by Miami by 3 or 4 touchdowns, I don't know that you're going to be satisfied with that 10. You know what I'm saying? I think it's how they look, the way they're doing it, because you're projecting. Again, I could be wrong. He could turn it around in a year. Again, he's not even turning it around. He's just putting it back on the tracks. So it could, maybe he can do that in a year. But my more concerned is how they look, because you're forecasting, you're projecting what it's going to look like in 2019 and 2020. And if he can get this team to start blowing teams out again, when this team plays well, it erases teams like the great Florida State teams of recent memory, and obviously in the 90s. I think that's a good sign, because I think you mentioned Ole Miss and Auburn, and no offense to Auburn, because they've had a good program. If Florida State gets the athletes that we think Willie Taggart's going to get, Auburn shouldn't even be in the conversation with Florida State. I mean, they should look like Auburn.
Auburn gets some pretty good talent, man.
They do, but they don't get top
stuff.
3 guys. Top 3 classes, I mean. Typically. They get top 10, 12, and they get plenty of good athletes. Florida State, I think, is a different animal when it's recruiting well. And I think it could be like Auburn on steroids as far as that offense. Certainly with Ole Miss. I think if you get the athletes to run this thing, because he's never had the athletes that he can get at Florida State to run this thing, there's a chance it could be scary good. Yeah. There's also a chance he could fall on his face and be fired after 3 years.
Bah, that's not going to happen.
Wake up, War Chant.
Taggart train going full steam ahead. We're going to stop into the station for a quick break. We'll be right back to wrap up the show after this. It's ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wrapping up the show, winding it down with Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Hudjavandi. Thanks for being here, folks. It's Wake Up War Chant on this Tuesday. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 awesome locations over in the Collegetown District. Check them on out. Central, Madison Social, and Township. You'll like them. Check out their brunch. I've had brunch at Madison Social, and I still fiend for it to this day. They like a Ranchos Huevos. I'm a very simple country breakfast guy. But then I like an exotic waffle or French toast. But I just need like eggs, biscuits, and hash browns. But then I did the Ranchos Huevos. It's got, ground
Huevos
beef.
Ranchero?
Yeah, ground beef and salsa and tortilla chips and stuff.
Good, huh?
I liked it. It was really good.
I love brunch, man. I
is.
love brunch. Every restaurant should serve brunch.
So describe to me, if you go and order hash browns, if you order hash browns at a restaurant for brunch, what should they look like when they come out on a plate to you?
I don't eat potatoes.
What?
So I would take them off the plate and throw them at the waiter and say I asked for grits.
You're being ridiculous.
No, I've done that before. I've literally picked up the hash brown and thrown it at the waiter and said, "Where are my grits?"
How don't you like hash browns?
I don't like potatoes.
Well, what do you think hash browns should look like then?
Brown, golden brown, little glistening.
Shape. Give me the shape. Are they shredded or are they diced potatoes?
Well, I mean, shredded, I guess.
Yes.
Whatever
Okay.
they look like at Waffle House. I think they look really good at Waffle House, even though I don't eat potatoes. I think those look good. The golden brown, they're glistening.
Yes.
Like the sun hits them just right.
So many places give you potatoes diced, like they're home fries. I'm like, no, man. Hash browns.
Yeah.
Hash browns.
Back to the kitchen with this.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. That's your breakfast sort of segment. Get hungry, wake up, eat breakfast.
Go to brunch somewhere, guys.
Yeah, breakfast is very important. Go to Township or Central or go to Madison Social.
Do they serve breakfast?
I think Madison
they serve
Social.
brunch.
Well,
on the weekend.
Go support our sponsors. Support the people who support us. All right, moving along now. Basketball, baseball. Let's talk about those two things. We'll start with baseball first. It seemed like they were going to lose, but as I said, this team is not going to lose.
Get you some, Kansas.
Fierce lose. They fell into a 5-0 hole.
I know.
Andrew Karp
that
got
makes up
touched
for
early.
Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah,
finally got some
Jayhawks.
revenge. 6 years later.
Do you think Chip Baker hammered a nail into a ball and gave it to Leonard Hamilton as here, this is closure?
Yeah, this
for
makes
you?
up for losing the biggest recruit of your career? Probably not, no.
But
that was a good win.
Andrew Karp did not look awfully good. I think he ultimately got credited with the win, though, because in the bottom half of the fifth, he finally threw his last innings where it was the top of the fifth, they exploded for 5 runs. Rafael Bornegal, first career home run as a seminal 2-run blast over the wall in right field.
Got it going.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh also had a 2-run double.
Mendoza had a few RBIs.
Mendoza had a single.
Yep.
So this is really cool. It's good to see them winning games, man. I know. And listen, you talked about it.
Putting a 10 spot up was a big deal.
Well, you talked about early in the game, everybody in the press box was, they should get Karp out of here. This game's going to get out of control. And you're like, dude, they can lose. It's okay.
You're allowed to lose games. And also when you have a game the next day when you know you're going to be using your entire bullpen, apparently. You wanted to get some innings out of him. He was not good. He wasn't terrible. He gave up 3 earned runs, I think, in 5 innings and had 7 or 8 strikeouts. I mean, he was still hitting mid-90s with some of his fastballs. He's got good stuff. He was just, to me, it looked like he was leaving his off-speed stuff up, and it got hit pretty well. But, man, again, when has Florida State ever just said, it's a new world. So they go to the 6th inning, they go to Scalaro, right? The freshman.
Really good kid.
And he just stays in the game. He just finishes out the game. That doesn't happen at Florida State. And that's the 3rd or 4th time this year I feel like that's happened, where they brought in a freshman. The first weekend they did it with Pollock before he became a starter. They bring in a freshman and say, hey, man, close it out. And he just gives you 3 or 4 almost perfect innings.
Well, I think part of that is because they know they're going to have to throw everybody.
But the fact that they can trust the kid to get 12 outs or 9 or 12 outs, keep running them out there, and they're good enough to do it. They just haven't had these kind of options. Kobe Johnson hasn't pitched in 3 or 4 days, and he's got the best strikeout ratio in the country. It's just they have a lot of arms and capable. They have a lot of capable arms down there, and it's something that I'm not quite used to with this team. That the starting pitching is good, but even if it isn't good, you're confident you can string together 4 or 5 innings and get those outs that you need.
So, yeah, I mean, 11 was excited about the win, talked about he hoped that the team, his thing was when they fell into a 5-0 hole, he wanted to look around and see if this was a team that simply felt good about how they performed the first 3 weeks of the season, or if this was a team that was going to fight, and they did. And again, I know it's a Monday game against a team that they were 8-2. I mean, Kansas came into the game fairly decorated or whatever you want to call it. So he's pleased as punch with his team, and it was good to see them again. And this Jonas Galar, again, a true freshman, going out there and getting huge outs and working out of a bad situation. So the Noles improved to 12-0. That means now I think 11's 20 wins. I think an even 20 now from the record. Yep. And they'll try to resume action today at 6:00, weather permitting. But I guess it's supposed to be a sloppy one tonight. So we'll see if it all works out. Meanwhile, over at the Tucker Center, Amsterdam, Coach Hamilton met with the media yesterday to, get ready or talk to you guys before they get on the plane to go to Brooklyn to play Louisville tomorrow.
They left for Brooklyn on Monday.
Oh, did they? After you talked to them, they got on the plane, they're gone. Anything stand out to you from that interaction?
No, not really, but I did write on War Chant about just Florida State's possibilities for making the tournament. We've talked about it before, but just kind of delved into the numbers about, there's a site called bracketmatrix. Because I think there are Florida State fans that are still genuinely worried they might not make it if they lose to Louisville.
Yes.
And, look, I'm not a bracketologist. I know you think I am, but I'm not.
You are.
But just looking at everything, it still seems like no matter what happens, because Louisville wouldn't be a bad loss at all. That you've already beaten that team on the road, so it's not like you'd fall down much for losing to the 46 RPI team. It's also not like you'd go up much for beating them. You really wouldn't. It wouldn't really do much for you. But there's the bracketmatrix.com, it lists all 110 brackets on the internet, or it takes 110 mock brackets. Florida State's in all 110. And the average seeding is like an 8.9. So it's not like they're even on the bubble. They're not like an Alabama or a Syracuse or anybody like that. They're comfortably in, and I can't imagine a loss to Louisville, who's a bubble team who's good, would be enough to also all of a sudden not only get you on the bubble, but get you out of the tournament. I just don't see that happening. I think there is a chance maybe they would fall to somehow to go to the play-in game, but I still think they're comfortably in. Because they have, one thing I did look up, Quadrant 1 wins. And I'm not going to get into it, but it's a new metric.
Right?
It's a new metric that the committee is going to use, which is a
we'll
really
go
big
into
deal.
real quick. It's winning at home against a team that's ranked 1 through 30?
1 through 30, on the road 1 through 75, and neutral 1 through 50 I think.
Yeah.
They have 6 Quadrant 1 wins, which is 6th most in the country, behind Villanova, Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, and somebody else.
Okay.
So that's really good company they're sharing, and that's a really big deal. I think they have 8 wins against the top 100 RPI, 8 or 9, which is high. It's a high number. So they have all the metrics. They only have 1 bad loss if you want to count Wake as a bad loss. It's a good, solid resume. It's a 9 or 10 seed resume.
So again, I mean, every that matrix, the bracket matrix, whatever, every single one.
Every one had them out of 110 had them in. There were a couple that had them as an 11 seed right now, which I think is way too low, which would put them on the bubble if they lost at Louisville. But most of them had them 7, 8, 9 range. So they're comfortably in. I mean, they finished 9-9 in the ACC. They had a hard schedule within the ACC. They had a harder schedule than some other teams, and they performed pretty well. The one I think they really would want back, there's two. Blowing the Louisville lead, 17, and they should have beaten Wake at Wake. That they just kind of let that one slide. Kofor missed the 2 free throws, but they just didn't play. But he was awesome in that game. Mm-hmm. They just didn't play well. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot you can really regret from this season. Maybe the Virginia game because they had that lead, but Virginia's really good. I think they're a tournament team. They're not a Final Four team, but they're a tournament team.
Yep. And if Joe Lunardi is your rock, if he makes you feel comfortable at home, folks, Joe Lunardi from ESPN, his bracketology has Florida State as a 9 seed in Wichita taking on Creighton. They would then draw the winner of Kansas-Nicholls State.
Well, that's not a great draw.
It's not at
there.
all.
But,
not at all.
Hey, just get in the tournament. Crazy things have happened. Maybe Savoy hits 12 threes in a game.
Yeah, we saw them in one of the brackets last week, I think, as like a 10 seed playing Texas A&M.
And Lunardi had him as a 10. Palm has had him as a 9 consistently and still does. So, I mean, the two best guys at doing this are Lunardi and Jerry Palm, and they both have him as a 9 seed. I can't imagine a Louisville loss would get them somehow to the 13 seed where they're out of the tournament. I just wouldn't see that.
Are they going to blast through everybody in Brooklyn?
Probably. I'm trying to figure out a way they'll lose up there, and I can't right now. So I feel like this is all a moot point, and they're probably going to be a 4 seed after winning the ACC tournament.
All right, there you go. You heard it here first. Corey calling it right now. So they'll play tomorrow at noon against Louisville. Winner of that will then play Virginia at noon on Thursday. Got to keep track of my days.
Right. Yep.
Terrible at this sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's a wrap for us. If there was anything else you wanted to add, Corey, I think that was not the most graceful exit, but I really have nothing else to add.
No, I just love you guys. Wake up. Enjoy the day. Love yourselves and each other.
There you go. Go on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. We'll appreciate it. He's Corey. I'm Aslan's Wake Up War Chant. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
These recruiting updates are nothing but fluff.
Are you wasting your time again on free blogs and social media to get the scoop on FSU recruiting?
Yeah, it's all bait and switch. Get me excited with a headline, but get nothing in return. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with FSU recruiting?
Could be another top 5 class, but for the real scoop, you'll need to get your own War Chant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer. Just sign up and you'll get full access through signing day. And nobody has more accurate and timely information on recruiting than warchant.com.
You know I like free. Sign me up. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.